Hi everyone, hi friends. I hope that you are well and having a beautiful day. It is 11 something in the morning where I live, which is Kigali, Rwanda. But if you're watching from the United States, it's probably the middle of the night. So I hope that that you are watching live. Hello everybody. Hello friends. I hope that you are well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're new to my world, I'm Laren Alta, healer, teacher, mystic, medicine woman, and creatrix of Black Girl Mystic. And Black Girl Mystic is where we heal the money wound and normalize wealth, ease, and freedom for Black women, femmes, and non-binary folks. So if you're not, let me just give you the lay of the land real quick. I've been running a business, doing work, have been doing healing work for over 20 years, and online since 2012. But I'm launching Black Girl Mystic as a new brand. It started out with a podcast in 2019 in the wake of all of the shenanigans that were happening in the United States. I got really crystal clear about what I wanted to be talking about and who I wanted to be talking to, which is what centering Black women, femmes, and non-binary folk in my work, which was not the center of my work initially. I was just talking to everybody about everything. But then got crystal clear. I want to talk to us, about us, and if there are other people who want to join in, they're more than welcome, but we are centered in my work. So that started out with a podcast. It's 5:54 a.m. in Brooklyn. Good, it's an early morning. Welcome, Wanda. Hi. So I got crystal clear in 2019, that summer of 2019. Was it 2019 or 2020? Either way, I was, whatever, when all of the George Floyd protests were happening, when everything was I was like, I want to center people who look like me, who have had lived experiences like me in my work, right? So I shut everything down. I closed out all of my one-on-one offerings. I closed out all my courses, and I started the Black Girl Mystic podcast portal. We have about 33 episodes where I've interviewed Black women, femme, and non-binary healer, teachers, mystics, medicine folk. And I was like, this is only the beginning, right? I want to create an entire movement that's centering us. It is, hold on, I can't see with my glasses. Let me put my spectacles on. It is 4-ish. Okay, welcome, early birds. I love that you're awake. So I was like, I'm centering us, right? I'm centering us in my work. So I just had to take some time. And then once that got clear for me, I was like, Spirit, what do you want me to do though? What am I here to teach and talk about? What do you really want me to do? And so the last year I have been just in the building process, following soul guidance around creating a world, what I call the Black Girl Mystic universe, that centers us around healing the mother wound, the mother wound, that's part of it too, right? But healing the money wound, which is connected to the mother wound, and normalizing wealth, ease, and freedom. Wealth, ease, and freedom for Black women, femmes, and non-binary folk. That's what the whole Black Girl Mystic movement is about, doing it from a soul-aligned spirit place, right? So today we're talking about Black women and the money wound. Like, really, what is this? And in particular, now I know we are a diaspora, right? But in particular, I come from the United States of America, even though I live in Rwanda. My ancestors, I am what someone I saw on Instagram the other day called foundational Black, right? I'm a foundational Black American, meaning my ancestors have been on that land for centuries, right? We built it. And so that's who I'm talking to. Now, if that's not who you are, if you are another part of the diaspora, this still may resonate with you, but I'm speaking from my lived experience and my ancestral lived experience. And this is the conversation that I'm going to have. So, as I mentioned, I do spiritual work, soul work, healing work. I've been doing it for a long time. I've been born into this lineage, born into this work. And, you may be doing spiritual work too, right? You may be seeing manifestation and affirmation and all this stuff about like spirituality and money. But it's not in the context of our lived experience. Now, why is this important? Because two things don't look at my nails, y'all. Don't look at this place where I go to get my nails done has been closed for a month. So don't look. But because two things are happening. You have one, the universal law, right? Which is true. Soul alignment changes everything, right? Soul alignment is really the only thing that you need. But if you're only focusing on soul alignment out of context of your lived experience, it's actually spiritual bypassing, right? It's actually not based in your own reality and your own lived experience, because you're talking about racism, you're talking about classism, you're talking about colonization, or you're not talking about racism, classism, colonization, colorism, sexism, and the intersections of all that. And you're just like, just meditate and money will fall into your lap if you're in alignment with spirit. Now, it's true that money will fall into your lap when you are in alignment with spirit. That I'm not contesting that. That's law, right? That's universal law, that we live in an abundant universe and that money is available. Money is just one form of abundance, but it's available to us anywhere, anytime we need. That's true. I'm not arguing that. That's true. We and Black people, Black women, Black femmes, we have access to universal law. White folk don't have the market cornered on that, right? So we have access to that. That's true. What happens when we don't contextualize our lived experiences without victimizing ourselves? We are not victims, right? But without contextualizing our lived experience, we miss how to actually be master manifestors. We miss it because we have all this other programming that's happening inside of our brain that we have to contend with. Okay, are y'all following me? Wanda, thank you. Okay, good. Are y'all following me? We have all this other programming in our brain that we have to contend with around race, class, gender, sexuality, all this other stuff that tells us what's possible, that tells us the rules, that tells us the games we have to play. Now, there's so many things I want to talk to you about, and that's why there's a whole Black Girl Mystic movement that we will be talking and diving deep into this. But why this is important for Black Americans specifically in this context. I want y'all to hear me. I'm going to say it and I'm going to say it again because I really want you to track what I'm saying. It's a very different experience. It's a very specific experience when your ancestors were exchanged for capital. Okay? It's a very different experience when you were told that your value was based on your body, right? It's a very different experience in relationship to money when you saw your parents get bought and sold, when your children were bought and sold. Epigenetically, and if you're not familiar with that term, that means in your genes that were passed down. It's a very different experience in relationship to capitalism when you were the capital. Okay? Are y'all tracking what I'm saying? It's very different. Now, that doesn't mean that absolves universal law. Universal law is universal. It's here. It predates capitalism, right? It was here before capitalism, communism, socialism. It was here before any of that. That doesn't mean that it's not, doesn't mean it hasn't had an impact on our lives or our understanding of what's possible. Okay? So when your ancestors were currency. Thank you, exactly. When your ancestors were currency, when your ancestors were traded for money, when there was a number on your ancestors' head about what their lives were worth, you're going to have a very different relationship to money than people whose lives didn't have that experience, where they can just be like, just meditate and money will fall in your lap. Now, again, this does not absolve. This is not circumvent universal law. It just means we have to have a more nuanced and different conversation about it. Now, when I'm talking about the money wound, I want to be crystal clear, super duper crystal clear, that this has absolutely nothing to do with how much money you have or don't have. Nothing. You could have stacks on stacks on stacks. I have friends who have multiple six figures of savings in the bank, and they have six-figure income, and they are terrified of touching their money. That's a money wound. It has nothing to do with the money in their bank account. It has to do with their relationship to money. You can have a money wound with stacks on stacks on stacks. You can have a money wound when you're living paycheck to paycheck. You can have a money when you ain't got a paycheck, okay? The money wound has nothing to do with your money. So I'm going to give you a couple examples of what money wound looks like, and in particularly what it can look like for Black folk. Now, again, I'm not saying other folk who aren't Black folk doesn't look like this, but I'm talking about us because I know us, and that's who I be, okay? It can look like hoarding. It can look like hoarding money, not spending, being what you might call frugal or cheap, but you're scared to spend because the reality is you're terrified of losing it. You don't know where it's going to come from. You think that you're never going to make it again. That's a money wound, okay? It can look like spending because you want everyone to see the name brands, right? You want everybody to see the car. You want everybody to know that this is Gucci, this is Prada, this is whatever it is. And you're saying, look at me. You can see my value because I'm wearing it and I want you to know that I'm valuable. It's the same energy as hoarding, right? Because hoarding is saying, I can't let go. And I'm not saying you can't keep things, and I'm not saying that you can't wear whatever you want to wear. I'm saying it's the energy behind why you're doing it. That's the money wound. It's a different energy, for example, if you're wearing Gucci or Prada or whatever name brand label things that you're wearing, and you know that it has actually nothing to do with your value or worth. That's a different energy than you wearing something and wanting to prove or illustrate that you are worthy or valuable. That's a different energy. So one is coming from a money wound and one is not. The money wound is rooted in insufficiency. The money wound is rooted in scarcity. The money wound is rooted in believing that you're not enough. And as I said just a little bit ago, if your ancestors were capital, if your ancestors were considered currency, then of course it makes sense that if you haven't healed your money wound, if you haven't done the work to heal that, which is deep work, right? Then of course you're going to hoard. Of course you're going to be scared of money. Of course you're not going to know how to make it. Of course you're not going to know how to keep it. Of course you're going to want to prove to everyone that you have it. Because they're in somewhere up in here, it's still connected. Your value, your worthiness is still connected to money. And capitalism doesn't help, right? Of course, capitalism is just like, is the system in which all of this operates, is made possible. And what I want you to know, what I want you to understand, and I know you already know it deep in your bones, but what I want you to really remember is that your value has nothing to do with money. And when you know it, when you get that you are innately valuable, that you are infinitely valuable, that your value has nothing to do with being bought or sold, then you can tap into true wealth and abundance, which of course manifests as money is one way, and miracles and things showing up and all these things, because you're not trying to play the game of capitalism, which really is a no-win game. There's no way to win at capitalism, right? So when you can step out of the game of capitalism and into remembering universal law, there's a distinction, right? Universal law is not the same as the rules of capitalism. The rules of capitalism say there's not enough, there's scarcity, there's limited supply, you have to prove that you're valuable, you have to prove that you're worthy, you have to earn it, you have to show it, you have to do it, you have to be forcing it, you have to will it into existence. Now, I want to name that this is how our ancestors got over. You know that song, that old gospel song, How I Got Over? This is how they survived hard work, right? This is how they proved they stayed alive, literally. Right? So I'm not dismissing hard work. What I'm saying is they had to play by the rules of capitalism in order to survive. And we don't have to be in survival mode anymore. We can thrive. We can hook back into, and not to say that they were ever not hooked into universal law, because really, that's really how they survived. Okay, we know that's true, but that's not what we're talking about today. That's how they tapped in, because they knew that the games and the rules of capitalism, enslavement, Jim Crow, all those shenanigans were lies from the pit of hell. They knew that, which is how we are able to be here today. They knew that, right? So it wasn't that they just worked hard, but there was a whole deeper medicine coming that they were aligned to, which allowed us to be here. I have a course that's coming out later this year called Rooted in Wealth. Rooted in Wealth, which is all about ancestral wisdom around abundance, whether your bank account shows it or not, right? Because that's how we got here. They weren't stupid. They were wise beyond our comprehension. But anyway, I'm digressing. Let me focus. Let me get back, right? So they knew I got to play by these rules of capitalism, work hard, show my value, do what I got to do to stay alive while honoring universal law. And now we don't have to be in survival mode anymore. Because what would it be like to have whatever you needed, to have all the money you needed, all the time you needed, all the energy you needed, to do whatever you needed to do whatever you wanted to do, but without having it to be a desperation, right? Without having it to be a need-based relationship, but to really have it be just in the flow of abundance. Because when I say universal law, that's what I mean, right? Abundance is everywhere. If we can think back pre-capitalism, right, on the continent, which is where I live now, right? If we can think back, our ancestors were like, I'm hungry, let me go get some fruit, and we'll pick a fruit off the tree. Oh, let me go get that deer carcass that we killed 2 weeks ago because we were using all deer, antelope, okay? All parts of the animal, right? The abundance wasn't measured by money until capitalism made it measured by money, right? Abundance was abundance. They could live inside of abundance because the universe in which we live is abundant. That is one of the rules of the universe. It is abundant. It's not scarcity. Scarcity is something that was made up by capitalism in order to function and create this dynamic of the haves and have-nots. Okay. Anyway, there's so much to talk about, but I'm not gonna go down too many rabbit holes. Because what I really want to name is that Black women, Black American women in particular, whose ancestors were enslaved, whose ancestors were commoditized, whose ancestors were considered currency. We have a very particular and specific money wound that has to be healed if we want to have a peaceful relationship with money, with wealth, with abundance, with receiving, with having more than enough, with overflow, with not having to prove our worth with our labor. Because it's just not true. It's something our ancestors had to do in order to survive, but it's not actually how the greater laws of the universe work. It's not how God works. It's not how the divine works. Despite what some religions have said, we don't live in a universe governed by a God, created by a highest power that says, oh, only certain people get this and only certain people get that. No, there is enough. There is more than enough. And so it's our work to heal our money wounds so that we can live in abundance of wealth, of ease, of overflow, of receiving with ease. Now, this is why I say that Black Girl Mystics' work is normalizing wealth, ease, and freedom for Black women, femmes, and non-binary folk. I want you to hear wealth, ease, and freedom. Oh, wait, let me put my spectacles on. Not prove our worth with our labor. Yes, exactly. That's it, right? Wealth, ease, and freedom. Now, I know plenty of Black folk with money. I grew up in a very multi-generational, class-stable family. And I'll talk about that later. Multi-generational, meaning my mama was class-stable, my grandmama and her sibling was class-stable, my great-grandparents were class-stable, and my great-grandfather was born two years after enslavement ended and had bought land and owned houses. All my family has owned their houses. That has nothing to do with the money wound. This is how I know it has nothing to do with the money wound. Because I grew up class stable around other Negroes who were class stable, and I know a lot of them have a very toxic relationship with money. I grew up in a house with abundance and silence. We could not talk about money. I could not talk. Oh, good question. Good question. This is what we're talking about. How do we heal our money wounds was the question. This is a great question. So I grew up with class stability around other Black folks, judges, lawyers, doctors, dentists, all these people who were my family's accountant, lawyer, doctor, dentist, all Black people, and we didn't talk about money. You see what I'm saying? This is the distinction. If you can't talk about money, if there's a shame around talking about money, if there's a silence around talking about money, that is a money wound to be healed. That is the work. That is the work. And so I'm so glad you asked this question, how do we heal the money wound? Because I see often, right, these manifestation candles. Ain't nothing wrong with a candle. Ain't nothing wrong with a prayer, all of it. But it's really about, you can't heal the problem at the level, you can't heal the symptom at the, no. You can't heal the cause at the level of the symptom, right? So yes, lighting a candle will make you feel better. Yes, saying this thing or having this crystal for abundance will be helpful and make you feel better. That's great. But really it's about going into the wound and healing it at a systemic level. And so the work that we do at Black Girl Mystic is using energy work, using somatics, which is like embodiment work, to really uproot and transform it so that when you see, I'll give you another example of the money wound, is when you get triggered by seeing someone who looks like you having what you want. That's a money wound. You make them wrong, how they get it, why they flaunting, right? We don't want to be bragging. That's a money wound. It's so right there that really we have to go deeper and heal it. But what part of the medicine that I do, that I carry, is embodiment work, right? And when I say that, I mean, it's just like it sounds, like embodiment in your body, healing at a deep level, so that not only so that, because yes, money comes easily. Yes. So you live in abundance. Yes. So that it's easy, that it's fun, that it's flowing. That's all true. But also so that you don't feel like you have to work for it. Now, I know that sounds kind of out of left field, especially because we live in capitalism. It's like, work hard, get results. Yes, I love to work hard. I work every day. Ooh. To the genesis of the trigger. Exactly. To the genesis of the trigger. Because it's been passed down, right? If I come from a multi-generational class stable family that doesn't talk about money, my mom didn't just pull that out of her hat, right? She got that from somewhere. Who got that from somewhere? Who got that from somewhere? Because again, if your ancestors, the value of your ancestors' life was one, ownable, if someone could buy and sell them, and did, then how are you going to talk about money? It's a sore subject. That's a trigger right there. The idea of being bought and sold with money and creates a huge wound because our human lives were monetized. It's heartbreaking, right? It's heartbreaking. So it's not something as just as easy as lighting a candle and holding a crystal and being like saying a money mantra. Not to say none of that has its place. It all has its place. But there's something deeper that we have to uproot. And that's the work that I do, right? That's the work. And when I say work, I don't want to sound like it's heavy labor and we have to work so hard and because that would be contrary and contradictory to wealth, ease, and freedom, right? The ease part, it's not that. It can be joyous, it can be fun, it can be uplifting, it can be engaging, it can be celebratory. It is all of those things, right? It can be connective and communicative, because one thing that capitalism teaches us is that, again, that hoarding. We have to keep it to ourselves. We can't share our secrets. We can't talk. We have to not talk about money, not share about money, not talk about how much money we make or how much money we want to make, right? And so part of the Black Girl Mystic movement, part of one of the offerings that we're offering beginning in the fall, is called the Rich Revolution. And it is a soul, school, and sacred community for centering Black women, femmes, and non-binary folk around healing the money wound, right? That's what we're doing. in this community. There'll be master classes taught by me. There'll be guest classes, embodiment classes with breathwork practitioners, movement practitioners, all kinds of Black women and femme teachers who are teaching embodiment. There'll be new moon practices, full moon practices live so that we can like actually be in community with each other, look each other in the face virtually, right? And dive deep into healing it. Because part of what can happen too, the danger, is that if we're not actually healing it, we can be just telling the same old story over and 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 over again, which doesn't actually move us anywhere, just keeps us stuck in the story. That's not what I do. That's not what we will be doing in the Rich Revolution. You come in and you learn and you heal, and you, because it's like they go hand in hand, right? On one hand, normalizing wealth, ease, and freedom is part of how you heal the money wound. And healing the money wound is how you normalize wealth, ease, and freedom. They go hand in hand. Because, again, you can have money and have a very unhealed money wound. Have a very unhealed money wound. And so it's about doing both. You can have money and be working yourself to the bone, grinding, pushing, shoving, harding, hustling, and not have any ease in your life. Not have any freedom in your life. Just be working and hustling, because that's what we've been taught is our value, how we stay alive, right? That's what we've been taught is how we stay alive. And thank God for our ancestors and our elders, because we would not be here without them. Thank God for them. And now we evolve that learning. Now we transform that medicine into lives of wealth, ease, and freedom. We get to cash. I don't play poker, but if I did, I think I understand. You cash in the chips, right? We get to cash in those chips. We don't have to live in a hustle, grind, survival mode anymore. We get to normalize ease. What is it like? Can you imagine what it would be like to be easy and not have to win the lottery, not to have to find a sugar parent, not have to, turn a corner and found like a bank bag just sitting on the corner with your name on it waiting for you. But what would it be like to just be in ease around money, no matter how much you have in the bank? What could that be like to be around ease? No matter how much you have in the bank? What would it feel like to feel good around money and abundance and wealth, no matter how much is coming in or not? That's possible. And then to have lots coming in, right? Those are both true. So there is so much goodness here around what can happen. Not just monetarily, yes, monetarily, but also what can happen around your relationship to money, your experience of money, your embodiment of freedom. This is what I want you to learn. This is what I'm teaching. This is what Black Girl Mystic is all about. I'm so excited. Everything is made for us, by us, centering us in this experience of life, because we don't have to hustle, grind, push, shove, force. We can allow God to just move through us, which is abundance, which is flow, which is more than enough, which is sufficiency. All right, my loves, I am going to go. If you have any questions, just let me know, and I will see you later. Have a beautiful day wherever you are in the world, and I'll talk to you soon.